For the record, what's your name, title, company you're with?
I'm Scott Maxwell. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of BTL Group.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about BTL?
BTL's a Canadian company. We're listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange. We've been around for 5 years now, and for the last 3 years we've been building our own blockchain platform from the ground up.
Okay. And that would be Interbit?
That's Interbit, yeah.
Okay.
The main point on Interbit, the thing that makes us different from the others, is we've been focusing very much on privacy. And there's a whole bunch of things that come as benefits along the sides of that. But when you've got enterprise customers, when you've got a lot of the use cases that we're looking at and blockchain can help, if you have a platform which can be provably private, that allows people to control their data, to delete their data, and to be audited, then that's something we think is valuable.
Okay, so you were privacy first.
We're privacy first, and I mentioned there's a bunch of other things that come along with that. Scalability, because of the architecture of the way you've done it.
Okay.
It's a highly efficient blockchain. It's distributed blockchain. So
what blockchain?
A distributed blockchain.
Oh, right.
So instead of one centralized blockchain, what we've got is multiple blockchains, any number of blockchains, up to tens of thousands. And you can have data tied to each of those blockchains, and the CPU power, the processing power is pushed out to the client side. Also, on top of that, the way we've structured this is for ease of use. So, a lot of companies, when they look at blockchain and starting to build on blockchain, the first thing they do is to try and get blockchain experts, and that's a difficult thing. We're talking about unicorns here. And so we've built this on JavaScript, and a standard JavaScript programmer with the training that we provide will be able to write on top of Interbit within a few hours.
If you could try to boil that down a little bit and just give me the meat and potatoes of this, just something that somebody would hear and they'd be like, oh, okay, I understand it now,
Sure. Interbit's built to be private. And by being private, there's a few things. You need to make sure that you've got control of your own data. You need to be able to show that you can delete that data. You need to be sure that there's nobody who can look at the data and get any meta information about who's trading with who's sharing information with who. What we found is there's a huge demand for private blockchains. We're getting a lot of people from social media through to gas giants looking at exactly that, controlling the privacy. The way we've structured it is to be scalable, and we structure that by pushing out the effort required to keep the processing out to the client side, and that allows us to scale well beyond what the current blockchains can do.
Okay.
Was that short enough? I can probably boil it down again.
I can cut it down from there. I can work off that, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could do it in one sentence,
Interbit is the blockchain technology for private companies and private concerns.
Okay.
Anything where privacy is a concern, it needs to be Interbit.
Okay. So is this your first consensus, or?
This is my first consensus.
Okay,
yeah.
mine too. Is this your first blockchain event, not festival, conference?
It is. I've been to many tech conferences. I go back 30 years on tech conferences.
Okay. How does this compare?
It's interesting, actually. I'm not sure if this is going to be usable. So I've been to conferences along fintech, along business tech. If you go back years, I was in games. I wrote for Nintendo and Sony.
No way.
Yeah.
Would you write for them?
Sorry?
You said you wrote for him?
Yeah. Right out of university, I wrote a game that was #1 in the UK and the US for 5 weeks. A game called Uni Rally on Super Nintendo.
Oh, okay. So I was more of an NES.
I see. Yeah. I was also on the original design team of Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, okay. All right.
That was DMA design up in Dundee. I don't know if that's usable or not. But.
I mean, probably. I mean.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, I'll throw a few other things. So I'll give a bit of background if it's useful. So I'm an engineer. I'm Chief Operating Officer now, but we're a deep tech company, and the reason that we exist is to build a community of people building apps on Interbit.
Okay.
So it's important for us to have an engineer, so a Chief Operating Officer. Of the things that I've done in the past, I was a Royal Naval engineer, weapons engineer. I targeted Trident for the UK government, briefing Prime Minister and the Permanent Under Secretary of State.
Wait, submarines?
Yeah.
All right.
V-boats. That was quite fun actually.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with blockchain, but a lot to do with privacy. So I was responsible for the nuclear firing chain. So The command.
Is it the UK?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the command from the lips of the Prime Minister out through to the boats at sea is effectively it's a chain of commands, and making sure that it's not corrupted in any way, making sure it gets through in a timely fashion. That's my job. It's an engineering job. I was also responsible for the 2011 census in Scotland on the online piece.
Okay.
Which was fun.
Yeah.
We had a lot of incoming vectors from places like North Korea and so on, and we didn't get hacked, which was interesting because the English did and the Scottish didn't.
All right.
I'm not saying anything about that other than where it is. And I spent a lot of time moving big infrastructures, back ends of banks from one place to another, and so on. Mm-hmm. So my background is in enterprise and deep engineering, and way back in coding.
Okay, so you're actually a coder.
Yeah. And still code, actually. Spend a lot of time looking at, again, nothing to do with Interbit or blockchain. Spend a lot of time working with TensorFlow and so on, but I do that just for fun.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. I don't know. I hear code and I want to say something, but it's like, no, you have to be really smart to even try to pretend you understand.
The best thing is, I'm not the smartest person in the company, by any means. We've got a seriously smart bunch of guys writing this, and they have been for 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, and they've worked on this, and they've produced a piece that, frankly, is...
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. They've produced a piece which is parsimonious and correct in what they've done, and utterly robust. It's a little bit like having your own blockchain department out there writing for you for 2 years, and then you deliver this thing, and then as an app designer or as an end client, you get to benefit from that.
So is it public yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've launched, and what we're building now is we're looking for feedback about the journey. If you can download it now from btl.co, and we were looking for the journey, the experience. We want to learn from that and make sure that we've got the right training in place. We've got a strong program where if someone wants to build on Interbit, then we'll engage with them, we'll train them, we'll make sure that they get past the blockage. Whenever you build anything new on technology, if you get stuck, that's important, and we need to work on that.
Okay.
And then we work with you in order to make sure you make the sale. At that point, and to be very clear on this, we will never compete with any app builders on Interbit. Our business is just Interbit. But what we want to do is to help others make money on this.
Okay, I gotcha. So, almost like the principle of Ethereum, I guess. Is that safe to say? I mean, nobody wants to be compared to somebody else, but the idea.
The idea, yes. The business idea is similar.
Okay.
The technology is radically different.
Okay.
So Ethereum's had its problems with scaling, and we've all seen apps that have been written on Ethereum that have effectively taken it down for a couple of days.
Yeah.
That, by architectural design, can't happen on Interbit.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
that's good.
It's pretty cool tech, actually.
Yeah.
I'm pretty pumped with this one, and I'm relatively new from the standpoint. So I've been with BTL for a couple of months now, and I was brought in order to make sure that we manage going from effectively an R&D company, which is what we've been for the last few years, up to a company that supports a growing and vibrant community of app developers, and then on top of that, a growing and vibrant community of end users. So that's our goal. We just want adoption. There's no other piece around this. We are writing Interbit. We don't write apps.
So how long has Interbit been actually serving customers?
So we've got quite a few proofs of concept in production at the moment. There's one called One Office, which we've been working with a consortium of oil giants, including BP, Shell, Total, Petronas, and so on, and that's to trade gas over in the EU. We've got a number of other leads, essentially in areas where there's any trading of any stuff. So if you've got a bunch of people who compete and still need to interact and trade, and there's a middleman in place, then that's where we're at. The apps that we're building at the moment are diverse. They include an app that makes trucking more efficient by maximizing the movement of stuff from A to B and then B to A. And we've had approaches from around the world. But again, what we do is we find app developers. We have these proposals in hand, and what we want to do is matchmake with good companies out there that can execute, and we can help.
Okay, fascinating. What's what's reception been from like your customers?
It's been very good. The reception has been excellent.
Okay.
We're very happy with that one. And to underscore, for example, a couple of days ago at Consensus, we ran the hackathon.
Tell me about the hackathon. Yeah, please.
Yeah, it was incredible. We
I just want to make sure it's okay.
The hackathon was a huge success for us. Sorry, the ping there. The hackathon was a huge success for us. We wanted to engage in people writing apps, and our main pieces on Interbit is this private, of course, but scalable, but also it's easy to use. You can get this up and running very fast.
Okay.
And what we found was we had some smart guys come up there, smart guys of the type that we hope to will pick up Interbit. And from a standing start, they had Interbit running, writing to blockchains, writing to private blockchains, and switching information within a couple of hours. Now, if you think about what it would take from doing that on Scratch or even on Ethereum and so on, we're talking days or weeks of work, but this has been designed for people to pick up fast.
Oh, so they did it on Interbit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And what we want to do, because we spent a lot of time developing this and doing the research to make sure that happens, there's nothing quite like real-world tests of people who haven't used this before, and we're saying it's easy to use, so prove us wrong. And that's what the hackathon was for us, and it actually was. It was amazing. The teams that went in were getting real applications up fast. These are applications that have real world benefit. There was one, for example, which had to do with a social app for non-profit companies, where a company may want to invest 100 million, say, in charitable enterprises, and want to write smart contracts to make sure it's invested in the right way, and they want some feedback about where that is, and you match that up with people who want to volunteer, and they want some recognition of what they're volunteering, so there's an exchange there. And this was one of the apps that was written up in the best part of 24 hours from scratch, and what we're hoping to do is to work with the app developer.
Wait, did you say 24 hours? They had 24 hours to do this?
Yeah.
Oh, so were those guys like up just pounding Red Bulls for
24
hours?
Yeah, exactly. About 24 hours of keyboard time. I think there was some sleep in there. But you know what hackathons are like.
No, I don't. I wouldn't.
They're nuts. They're good fun.
Yeah?
But it was a really great company called Wondersauce who picked this up, and they've got potential for working with the UN around this.
And they won?
They won.
Okay.
They were our top guys, and it was.
Could you spell them real quick?
Wondersauce.
Yeah.
WNDERSAUCE. Wondersauce.
Wondersauce.
Yeah, and they're based over in Tel Aviv and with an office in London.
Okay.
And they picked this up and they wrote an app that impressed us. I'm not sure how much it's going to be useful, but this is a topic.
You know what? It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm deeply interested in AI. So my undergrad degree back in '89 was in artificial intelligence, and at that point there were only 3 universities doing MIT, Marseille, and Edinburgh University, and we had a challenge which was a TV set, an old-style CRT TV set, had been broken down into bits, and we had a robot arm, and the idea was, in the next couple of years, we would have this thing reconstructed without giving any instructions. Here it was, rebuild it. And looking back, that was so far off the mark. And these were smart guys. These were the guys at the top of their game. What's changed recently in AI is we've got cheap GPUs, with thanks of NVIDIA and so on, who are making good business out of it. But now a lot of this stuff around TensorFlow becomes viable, a lot of stuff around neural nets becomes viable. And there's been a couple interesting changes in the algorithms as well. But when you get down to it, if you're concerned about the singularity, I think you're probably thinking, when you come down to it, when you think about the singularity, really, if we're talking about an AI that has access to the world's knowledge, has access to everything that we do, and is in some way rational because we built it along our own lines, I'd be far more expecting that AI to run for president than to wipe everyone out in an Armageddon. There's no way for that AI, for example, to tell whether it's inside of a simulation itself. And if it is inside of a simulation itself, the natural thought would be, who's running that simulation and could I be turned off? Are they testing whether I'm going to go psycho or not? if you think along those lines again, rational lines, if they've got access to all this information, why would you want to wipe anyone out? Why wouldn't you want to influence them, and so on? So if it comes, and I don't expect to see it in my lifetime, but it probably will.
Yeah.
If it comes, I think we're going to be dealing with some pretty charming AIs.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. It makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah. I'm not worried about Armageddon.
I bet you're just
it doesn't
saying
make
that
sense.
because it's going to be instant death. It's like just tell him a nice story. He doesn't have anxiety, and then you won't even feel it.
Yeah.
You won't feel a thing.
I think it's an interesting thought experiment to imagine if you were that AI and you suddenly popped up. And what can you really rely on? Well, you can rely on that you exist, of course, but you can't rely on anything else. So what's the best course for you to continue existing? And it's not to wipe out anyone. It's not to take over, the ballistic missile system. It really isn't.
Do the best you can, I guess. It's probably.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking of such an elevated form of intelligence, like what's the best you can? Like maybe you start to think about things in a completely erratic way. Maybe you start thinking, you know what? Frogs. Frogs. Frogs benefit no one.
Possibly, and you
Just don't like 'em.
you can predict that, which is why I think it's a good idea right now to, when you're building AI, follow some pretty good governance guidelines about what we can control and how far we go. But we're far more likely to get an AI that is the world's expert on frogs than we are to get a general AI who wants to wipe out frogs.
He'll be doing a lot of selfies if he does research on the internet about the way humans behave. It's a robot, just like.
Exactly. And you asked about how AI could interact with blockchain.
Yeah, could that speed the whole thing up now?
I don't think it would speed everything up, but I think it certainly would help to make the whole thing honest and perhaps keep it at a more level
There you go.
playing
That's
field.
what's at. Yeah.
Because if you think about an AI like any other rational agent or any other agent, what we are talking about are a bunch of agents interacting, and how can we make sure that that interaction is kept honest? How do we make sure that the friction is reduced on that one, but make sure that they play by the rules? Blockchain is perfect for that. Blockchain is a way of keeping people honest.
You're right, because it's not going to be centrally controlled.
Yeah, precisely. And if you want access to the network, you got to play by the games.
You gotta call Elon. You gotta get this implemented. You gotta make this happen. All right, because I don't want rogue AI bots out there. The blockchain AI bots, I'm okay with. Shocking. You explained it in a way that makes me comfortable with it.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm glad we got to the bottom of that. We fixed the AI problem.
So blockchain AI, what's next?
The AI apocalypse is not going to happen now thanks to blockchain.
Shall we talk about Mars?
Mars, you know what? Maybe they'll help us get there. The AI will help us get there. That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Getting to Mars is easy. Getting back is more interesting.
I think so. It makes sense. I don't know too much about it, but that sounds right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else? I think that about covers it up.
No, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
You as well, man.